How you doing, Brian King, UK Flooring TV? Today we're over at Nick Hood's Carpet and Flooring over in Birmingham, joined by good mate of mine, Steve Ramsden. Alright, Steve?
Hello, mate.
Today we're going to be talking about cutting back your LVT to put your border in. Now, I've tried several ways. I've tried the plunge saw, which I found was a bit too big and a bit messy, to be honest. I've tried cutting it with a knife and a straight edge, but you've got to keep your knife completely straight. You can't start angling it, otherwise you get different shapes on the edge. So I was talking to Steve about it, and he said he uses the exact saw. Small, compact, easy to use. Why do you use this, Steve?
Well, you've all seen this before. Yeah, there's loads of people out there saying, this is how you use it and whatever. It's nothing new. We've had these for years, literally. That's probably 15 years old, that one that I've got there.
I had the very first one what come out. I used to use it for laminate and ply.
Yeah, and that's what we predominantly, we always use this for ply. Yeah, just cutting it up and so forth. You can set the depth of it and you can set it really accurate. So you're not blunting the blade. The blades are not expensive, but at the end of the day they're not cheap either, so you want to make them last as long as possible. But the reason I use this is because it takes away the element of human mistake, twisting the hand, blade going under a straight edge, whatever, and also makes life easier. You cut in a whole room border, you know it by the time you've actually scored that, and it's so easy for the straight edge to move and so forth. So this is really good. It's accurate, it's quick. Yeah.
Have you used a plunge saw?
Yeah. I mean, look, I've got the Festal dust extraction there. I've got a Festal plunge saw. Yeah. But the thing is, the T35 or TS35, whatever it is, 55, is really quite big. And when you're starting in a corner, if you're only doing like let's say like a 5.5 inch border, you can't cut the first 4 inches or so because of the size of the machine. And once you've got the dust extraction on it as well, that pushes it out further. The other end you can get a bit close, but when you start, so you've got to cut sort of probably about that much every time with a straight edge. And it's the transition between the cut and then the hand cut with the straight edge. It's getting that absolutely perfect, especially if you've got no feature strip going in there. A feature strip hides all manner of nasties. You've got a dark feature strip in there. If there's a slight little gap, it really doesn't matter. But a lot of people don't want the feature strip. They want, the same material on the edge doing the border. So it's a subtle border rather than an outline.
One what stands out in your face.
Yeah. So it's when you're doing that this really counts, and you need to get a good cut and a good sort of like 90-degree cut. It's nice if you could actually get it slightly angled back, so that the top is touching and you've got no backing pushing that out. But with this, it only does a perfectly straight cut. With the Festal punch saw, you can actually set that at a slight angle. So maybe a 1 degree angle, and it's cutting the bottom sort of like bigger than the top, and it guarantees. But again, you've got that transition of the hand cut and the machine cut. Is it going to be perfect enough? Who knows? We're not all perfect, So I prefer to use this. As I say, you can get really quite close to the wall. It's a small blade as well, which means it's closer to, so you're not having to do too much by hand. You will still have to cut some by hand, probably the first and last 15 mil, which is it really cuts down on the work that you got to do, Bryce. So this is a brilliant piece of kit, one that I use on every job that we're putting a border in, and most jobs these days they're having a border. Doesn't necessarily have to be herringbone like we've mocked up here. Could be anything. Could be straight lay with a border. It could be just 45 degree. It could be anything. It could be sort of basket weave, whatever. It's not necessarily just for the herringbone, although we've set this up for herringbone because it's the only bit of spare that I had.
Is there different types of exact saws, or is it just?
There
like
are
one
different
for all?
types, yeah, there are. Well, there has been throughout the years. I think now there's only the green model, which you've got down there, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's the new one. That
The
is
exact
actually-
14.
Yeah, which is designed to go on to a track. So it's really hard to set the depth on the newer ones. You've got to play around with them to actually get the depth set. These ones, well, my one especially, was never ever designed to go onto a track or anything. So I can sort of adjust that from 0 up to about 14 mil, I think.
And that's the exact EC 320.
Now I've been collecting these. I go onto eBay and whatever, and I'm probably shooting myself in the foot here by doing this, because you're all going to be going onto eBay, and then I won't be able to get any more to have as backup or to give to the lads who work for us. But I go onto eBay, and there's a lot of people who bought these throughout the years, and they're putting them on eBay for sale. I picked up my last one for 38 quid. And it's almost brand new. I don't think it's, I think it's been used once.
I paid £90 for mine, brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, it's pot luck, if you get it. But that's what I've been doing. I've probably had about half a dozen off of them off of eBay, and, I hand them out to the lads. Once they've seen it, they go for it. So that's that. So that's what I'm using. But I've seen loads of different guys. What they'll do is they'll be using sort of like plasterers straight edges. The things that they use to make sure that the boards are on straight and there's no bumps in them. It's like a big straight edge, quite thick, and they use them to run this along. Because if you haven't got a track for it, you want to make sure it's straight, but it needs to run on something. Yeah. The only problem with these things is, whether it's straight edges or whatever, is if you've got a long cut all the way down one wall, you've got to move it. And it's when you move it, it's once you finish that cut, you then move it on to the next bit. Will you get that exactly in the right spot so that cut continues in a perfectly straight line? There's no kicking it there that's going to show up, or whatever. If you're going around a fireplace and you want to get into like the little alcove either side or whatever, it'd be too long. Now, you're going to have to use something else. Now, if you do fit LVT, you're going to end up with spare bits left over. Yeah, and I always use planks. Yeah, I've got spare planks left over from jobs. I save these, and I can put these down. I can put one up against the next one, make sure it's running straight, a little bit of double-sided underneath, keeps it in place while I'm working, and then I can actually cut these to put in a smaller bit on the end if needed, or cut it to get into smaller areas and so forth, and I can throw it away at the end of the job.
So you can do a full wall, no matter how long it is, without stopping.
Exactly, as long as I've got a lot of spare left over, I could just keep going. Yeah. The only thing you've got to make sure is that it doesn't move on the joint when you're actually cutting down, that you're not putting masses of pressure on this to push it out of shape. Yeah, but it comes with a little bit of practice. It's quite easy. What I would suggest is if you do have a practice, if you've never used one of these before, have a bit of a practice with it, because they can be a little bit, frightening, as well as sort of like, I've fitted all this floor and I could ruin it. Well, you're not going to ruin it. If you do overcut it or whatever, you can pull one of these out and put one back in and then recut it. So anything's retrievable. You're not going to ruin a floor unless you let it go across the floor, and then you've got to completely change the whole floor. So what I want to do is I want to look at the bottom of it, and I want to look at that blade first off, and there you can see the blade just there. It's roughly about 1/2 inch away from that edge just there. If you can see that there, Bri.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm right-handed, and I literally, just by nature, I go around right-handed. So my blade will always be 1/2 inch in from whatever straight edge or plank that I'm using. So I've got to take that into consideration when I'm setting out my border. Yeah, if I want, and in this case, I wanted a 7.5 inch border. Yeah, I want a 7.5 inch border, that's what the customers asked for. Yeah. So if I want 7.5 inch, I've got to set this at 8 inches so that it's cutting on the 7.5, if that makes any sense.
To compensate for the gap.
To compensate for that gap. If you're left-handed, you'll probably want to go around the other way. And because I'm not left-handed, I don't know what this measurement is, so I'm going to quickly measure it. And it's roughly sort of like 1.25 inches the other way. Yeah, so if I was running around that way, left-handedly, I would have to set that 1.25 inches back from where I want it to cut. Yeah, but I just find it easier. It's roughly 1/2 inch that way. If I want a 7.5, I'm going to mark this at 8 inches. So I'm just going to, you know, you've got to appreciate this. This is a mock-up here. So I'm going to say that the end of the ply here is the skirting board. And I'm just going to mark that there. And I'll mark it down here as well. Yeah, like so. Probably put one just there for a minute because I haven't got a straight edge, so I'm just going to use the plank to give me that straight edge just there. So the lighting is terrible for me to do this, but literally I just put a line down like this. I just need to go over with either a glue wipe or just a damp cloth at the end of the job and just wipe that mark off. So once I've got that on there, I can then put my plank on there and it won't move. Now, if that was the wall down there, is all I'm going to do now is, let's just get a sharp knife. Just cut that like that. And literally, and I've got a nice straight line to follow, my guide, that is to the right size. So I've put that down at 8 inches, but that's going to cut it at 7.5 inches. Okay, so we've got this just here. Yeah. So you missed that, guys. Brian's just sort of knelt down and I could hear every joint creaking as he got down. So we got a closer look there. So it's up against the edge of that. Start the machine up and then push in. But as you can see there, because I'm keeping this in place, that's not moving. So literally all the way along. To the end. With the dust extraction, nice clean cut. There's no mess being blown up the walls or on the skirting board or into, if you've, you know, because we've glued this up, but nobody's perfect with the glue, are they? You know, you might get it over the edge and you get bits all in the adhesive and you've got to scrape that up and so forth. If you're one of those people that like using pressure sensitive, which I really don't like using pressure sensitive, you're going to have pressure sensitive adhesive there and you're going to have all the bits in that pressure sensitive adhesive. So it's advisable to use dust extraction. You don't have to use a Festool. With this, a Henry would be perfectly good, but you don't have to power off, which means, you know, this thing only works while I'm using the machine. So I'm now just going to get my knife and literally, before I do anything else, I'm just going to run down here just at a slight angle. My blade, I don't know if you can see that, is at a very slight angle there, just making sure that I'm actually cutting back there. So literally all the way down, I've just got caught in the plywood there. All the way down, and then I can take these out. obviously for demo purposes here, fellas, we've put this on double-sided tape, or I've put it on double-sided tape. Yeah. I'll just cut that little bit there, and that's that. Now what I'm going to do, just quickly, is so I've just cleaned that edge up, and now you'll be able to see that when that goes together, you've got the perfect edge just there. Yeah, you know, so once we take these up, if you're careful with them, yeah, I can now use that to do the next cut. I haven't measured this back or anything, you've got to appreciate we're just doing this on a board here, yeah, but I can now do do that cut again, just like so. If it requires a bevel on the edge, is all you got to do is run round with an X-Acto with a stirrup blade in it.
Steve, what about like cutting too far? Do you know, like on an external?
Yeah, on an external. Internals you can't cut too far, can you? You know, you're going to be going into nothing, into the void. But let's just say, you know, you want to. How can we mock this up? I'm just going to try and mock this up. But let's just say I was cutting here, yeah, and then it went to there. I've marked it out, yeah, I've marked all of this out, that it's the 8 inches. So I've got a pier just here. Maybe that's some patio doors or whatever there, and you get the pier either side of the patio doors. So I've marked it out that it's 8 inches away from that wall. It's 8 inches away from the wall there, so I've got all of that. But I've got to be careful because you don't want to... It's so easy to cut too far. And what you've got to remember is that your cut is going to be ½ inch back from that, and it's going to be ½ inch back from that. So you can actually mark that, yeah, if I do the ½ inch and then I do the ½ inch just there, yeah, so I've got that there and I've got that there. When I set these up on that line, yeah, I'm gonna cut again, Bri. I want to be careful, right? If you look on the side here, it actually tells you when you're cutting down 2mm, that's the end of your blade there, that's the end of your blade there. Yeah, if you can see that. But that sort of gets worn off after a while, so you have to sort of judge it. So you come along, you think to yourself, still got a ways to go. And I don't want to cut any more than that. Yeah. And then I can do the other one just there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there. What I've done is I've left myself that sort of like external corner to actually cut. So that's all I'm going to do. Just get my blade in there and get that on there, like so, and literally just cut back. I don't want to cut too far. And then I'm going to get that on there like so, and there. And then if that was stuck down, yeah, I can just go along and just cut back these. So I've just cut that, that's the last bit that I cut by hand. And we can put a plank in there, and again, if it was square, I haven't actually squared that up, but I just put that down very quickly. If I'd measured that out, I would have squared that up. I would have put a square in there to get that so that I could butt that up. But you know, I can quite easily, if it wasn't square, if that pier wasn't actually square or anything like that, I could, in effect, just take the burr off there. I haven't got the exact with the stirrup blade in it at the moment, but then you can put that down and you've got the perfect cut there. You may want to mitre that, or you may want to block it, which means I would then have to put that one there. I'm of the school of blocking this in the corners rather than mitering it, but it's personal preference. It's all down to the customer at the end of the day. I would talk to that customer and ask them what they would prefer, but that would be how I would finish that. And because it's a 7.5 inch border there, literally, yeah, again I would have to cut that one underneath there and that one there. So I prefer to block my corners. I think that looks really quite neat, but you can actually mitre it as well. So you've got two options there, down to you know, the customer, the individual. So that's that. But as you can see, really easy. Is all you got to do is just go around with a damp cloth afterwards, just get rid of those marks that you've put down. All of this can be thrown away afterwards, or you can save any full ones that you haven't cut down. But as we said earlier, Bri, it's like you can just use as many of these as you want all the way down the side. Once you've taken them up, you could then, until the tack has gone on your double-sided, then just put another bit on there. Carry on all the way around the room. It is so quick.
You were cut in one hit? Yeah. Yeah,
you just one straight line. But what it eliminates by using these, I feel anyway, and this is my opinion on it, it's not, look, this is the way you must do it. It's my opinion. It's a way that I've sort of like thought, oh, I'll do it that way, and it's worked for me. And I you know, if it works for you, then well, it could work for other people as well. Works for me. I find that I've got no sort of like joint in moving straight edges and whatever, where you've got to make sure it's in the perfect place, especially if you're putting, you know, if you're going up without feature strip in there. Feature strip, as I've already said, just hides all of that, you know, all of that can go on there, like slight little gaps. And you know what it's like, you've only got to get a hairline gap in this, and you know, if you haven't got it there, but you've got it there, but you haven't got it there, somebody's going to pick it out. If you've got a gap all the way down, yeah, slight gap all the way down, it looks as if, well, you know, it's not right, but it looks as if it's natural. But if you get a little bit here and there, that's going to get picked up. Yeah, so for me, that's I feel the best way to do it. Yeah.
Great tip, Steve. Like I say, I can't wait.
Worth their weight in gold.
Can't wait to give mine a shot. Like I say, 90 quid new.
As I say, I've set mine up so that it just cuts it to within a fag paper of the backing of the material, and you can adjust that for every, you know, as you know, there's different thicknesses of LVT. You can adjust that. That blade, I don't think I've changed in probably months, but it's cut a hell of a lot of, you know, sort of borders and what have you. Because I'm not cutting the concrete, I'm not cutting anything. All it's doing is just cutting PVC. So it's worth taking a little bit of time and just setting it up right.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Cheers for that.
No problem. Thank
Cheers.
you. Bye.